Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie and television discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Porteous, and I'm joined by Sweet Shanza Kovacs from the internet.
My favorite thing about this show is the main character says his own name more than I do.
And YouTube's own anime dad, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, but I have a perfect MODOK face.
Oh, indeed.
I'm making it now.
And we are back again, everybody. Hope you have been watching some new TV this week because we are checking out the first 5 episodes of MODOK on Hulu. And as always, we'll talk about its comic connection and the biggest connection of all. That's right, 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone. But before we do all that, we do want to say a big thank you to the people that make this show happen over at patreon.com/HMP. Those mercenaries of support get that pre-show, post-show dinger zone. And of course, get to vote on the movies that we watch each month. And that's coming up again this week. We'll tell you more about the options for that at the end of this show. If you would like to vote on what we watch, get that pre-show, post-show, dinger zone, yourself an HMP nickname, of course, head on over to patreon.com/HMP and join today at a rate, however big or small. Just make it something that means something to you. We just, we don't have you listen to 10 minutes of ads. We don't want you buying things that you don't need. It's just if you find something valuable out of this show, pick a number that means something to you, send it back our way, and get more stuff at the exact same time. Couldn't be better, win-win. Patreon.com/HMP. Oh, and of course, if you're on the Podcast 2.0 devices, I do have something to say to you guys. What happened? Because we were strolling along there and some of those dropped off and everything. Bitcoin's cheaper now, so go ahead. Just start boosting away. We appreciate that. But let's get into it, fellas. Here is the trailer for MODOK.
Time to change the world by bringing it to its knees. Am I good businessman?
Yeah, about that. We're bankrupt.
What? You are hereby relieved of your status as CPA Supreme and as a living person.
I still need to do your personal taxes.
I'm sorry. I thought this coffee was for everyone.
Attack!
MODOK!
And do you know what MODOK stands for?
Mental organism designed only
For killing.
Hate it!
For killing.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for, you were correct, Sean, Marvel's MODOK. You gotta do the full branding there. That the first season available on Hulu. We're going to be talking about the first 5 episodes this week. Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. It centers around an egomaniacal supervillain with a really big head and really little body who struggles to maintain control of his evil organization and his demanding family. Weak sauce, IMDb. Pretty bad. Not good. But if you take one look at MODOK, you've at least got to figure out he's a big fan. So let's see.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do we got?
MODOK, the mental organism designed only for kissing, was created by Lee and Kirby and first appeared in Tales of Suspense in 1967. Pretty early on, the floating big head became an enemy of Captain America, whose physical perfection he hated bitterly. Even in his first appearance, AIM drones seemed to already be chafing under MODOK's leadership. But when MODOK first appears on the page, he is larger than life. He refers to himself as a one-time AIM guinea pig who's now become their master, and he squares off with Cap in a battle over a blonde-haired Lady S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who turned out to be Sharon Carter. MODOK does proclaim his invincible mind beam to be the greatest weapon ever unleashed, but it's not all that great at defeating Captain America because it doesn't. Captain America is victorious in his first fight with MODOK when the magnetically levitating megalocephalic being is blasted by his own AIM agents, who don't like him very much, thus setting the tone for the long and contentious relationship MODOK will have with advanced idea mechanics. MODOK appeared to die in his first appearance, something that occurred all too frequently during the Silver Age, but he doesn't just die. He dies in the most egotistical of fashion. He says, MODOK must not die like any helpless being. I must perish in a manner befitting of the Master Supreme. Men must talk of my last few seconds for as long as legends endure. Yeah, MODOK has a big head figuratively in additional to literally. MODOK somehow survives his apparent death and goes on to battle the Hulk, Iron Man, Miss Marvel, and the Vision. But I don't think he ever wins. After stacking up failure after failure, MODOK gets abandoned by AIM, and out of loneliness, he transforms Bruce Banner's friend, Dr. Catherine Waynesboro, into Ms. MODOK to give him a honey with which to kick it. Sadly, love was not in the cards for the big brain duo, because horrified by MODOK's callous disregard for life, Waynesboro demands to be restored to human form, and MODOK willingly complies. And once again, MODOK was alone. At one point, the Serpent Society assassinated MODOK, but AIM used his corpse as a supercomputer. AIM temporarily replaced him with his more loyal and in some ways more effective second female counterpart, MODAM. MODOK is resurrected, but once again a target of attacks from rogue AIM agents. This time, one of the rogues being MODOK's long-lost son, who seeks revenge for his abandonment. With this long history of loss and love, being disrespected by his AIM underlings and at odds with his offspring, the Hulu show is original but oddly comic book accurate in nature.
Now, if the comic trailer and the comic connection didn't do it for you, let me try to sell you on it. The sucker's got everything in it. We got a giant-headed floating genius, faceless hazmat henchman, marital problems, third eye blind songs, Patton Oswalt, goo people, John Hamm, Jean-Ralphio, that lady from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We got time travel, more villains than you can shake a Bruce Leslie at, a robot that turns into a van, single dad living, Hoobastank, a corporate takeovers, payday payola, and an aardvark man. You can't lose. This thing's got everything.
It's an armadillo man.
Whatever. It's all the same thing to me. They're creatures that I don't understand. I'm like, listen, it's odd that I live in a kind of near a country-esque sort of area, but I am still very city. I don't know what that is. It's sad. It means I'm uneducated is what it means.
Yeah, an aardvark's like a possum with body armor.
Sure. Now, again, Bruce, I feel like because MODOK is who MODOK is, number one, what he looks like, number two, what, his kind of comic life is like and everything, I feel like it is just, right down your alley as a character that is high. Yeah, I like MODOK just because of the weirdness. And I don't really know what Jack Kirby was thinking the first time he drew MODOK, but he actually looks, some characters look kind of ridiculous and then they get more ridiculous with time. But his first appearance is as ridiculous as it gets.
It's also the one character where I don't even need to know who originated this character. There's absolutely no doubt Jack Kirby made this character.
Yeah, for sure. And then, with time, like he was largely ineffective in his first appearance. And he was just kind of, I really think it was a very thinly veiled metaphor for somebody with a big head. I mean, not like a big head physically, but, the big headed guy, just the little monologue he gives before he dies. And they tried to treat him as a serious villain for, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years, but then people realized that the magic with this character is the ridiculously, and it just kind of spun out into more like comedy title after comedy title. It's like Bizarro over at DC. Like at first you try to play him as a straight up character, but then you start to realize that the fun in this is the humor.
So I guess let's start with there. Does this show, at least as through these first 5 episodes, because I knew that it was going to be a comedy and everything, but the trailer that we played on the show here is the only one that I watched because I was just like, you don't have to sell me too much on this. You have Patton Oswalt, you have MODOK, and and from the producers of Robot Chicken and stuff, I'm like, all right, I'm already on board. You don't have to sell me too hard. So I really didn't know that it was all about like his family and everything and stuff like that. I was kind of surprised, but ultimately, I thoroughly enjoyed this first half.
Really? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it might come down to how you feel about Robot Chicken in general. I mean, Robot Chicken is a 15-minute per episode show that I think might have more than one skit per episode.
Oh yeah, it's programmed for the ADD generation. It's quick, and you know we're on to the next thing. Sometimes sketches are like 8 seconds or less. Even I've seen like 2-3 second sketches sometimes on that show. It's amazing.
So I think you go into like that funny SNL sketch that becomes a boring movie risk factor here. Like, can you stretch out what would be one of the greatest recurring sketches on Robot Chicken into a standalone series? And I think that is what might be the question a lot of people have to answer as to whether or not they like this or not, because it is it is funny at times, and it's shockingly accurate, which Robot Chicken usually is too. Like, they know their lore when they're putting that together. But it's kind of, for me, it was kind of hard to watch 5 episodes in a row without taking a break.
Oh, that's strange, because I am basically in the middle this time, which I usually am not. This show is going to give me a term now, though, which I'm going to call the MODOK principle, because here's the thing. The show goes down so easy. It's well crafted. I think it's adorable to look at. Like, that's part of its charm, is it's just so cute. It is instantly forgettable. I watched 5 episodes on Friday. I can tell you maybe 3 things that happened on this show, and that was 2 days ago. It's good. It's not great. It's good. It's not awful. It's good. It's a good show. It's 22 minutes. It's something to have on in the background. It is fun. It's not funny, but it's fun. And Patton Oswalt's great as MODOK. He's the perfect casting for it. This isn't something that I'm going to return to unless I need to for this show.
And
or there's literally nothing else to watch.
I really, really, really feel endearment for Patton Oswalt. Mm-hmm. And like, if you ask me why, I can't even point to 1 or 2 things that make me just love Patton Oswalt. But it's
because you're the same person.
I'm taller, but I do feel like Ben, I loved Happy, and I know you didn't particularly enjoy that, Sean, but the big part of my enjoyment of that was Patton Oswalt as the voice of Happy. And I really like Patton Oswalt. But once you get beyond him, and I like Ben Schwartz good enough, I guess. I mean, I'm not a member of the fan club or anything, but I think he's fine. But with this show, I feel like once you get past Patton Oswalt, there's a palpable drop-off. Fortunately, he has 80% of the lines, but you know what I'm saying?
I don't agree with you. I think that the supporting cast on the show is pretty good, and at times great. I like that Iron Man keeps showing up. I really like that. I think that's funny. There are certain things about the show, though, that it's got 2 things against it. One is that a few years ago, I have a friend who I hadn't seen in forever, and like, we got the gang back together, and we started talking about Robot Chicken, and she's a girl, and she was like, I don't watch Robot Chicken, I'm a girl. Like, this immediately, that's how she put it. And I had never put it together before. Robot Chicken is a very male thing. I mean, and I never thought about that until she brought it up. I don't watch that show, I'm a girl. And so watching the show this week, it is totally a dude show. I can't imagine a woman watching the show and just being like, yes, this was made for me. I just can't. And I mean, maybe there are some ladies out there who are that way, but I can't imagine being a nerdy nerd girl and being like, yes, perfect.
And I also think it has a Michael Scott problem.
Yes.
Because like, when you're watching The Office, you can understand that at a regional branch office for a paper manufacturing country, that an absolute person who couldn't cut it at an entry-level job somehow becomes manager just because he never quits. But I don't understand here how MODOK made it to the top. And then also, when they show us young MODOK in college, I don't see how that MODOK became this MODOK. Maybe the second half of the season will address that, but the problem that I have here is, like, you know, if you're going to see Ricky Gervais, you're going to see Steve Carell being the absolute nincompoop boss, it needs to be in an office where a nincompoop can be a boss, not at AIM.
Right.
I just
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, it's the MODOK principle here, where because it's instantly forgettable, you could basically put anything into the show and it's just going to slide off, you know? So like when you have something like, I like the references, there's a lot of references on this show, and you know, that it feels like that time has passed. The time of references has passed, thanks in part to Robot Chicken.
Yeah. I'm thinking like the Family Guy effect, another Seth Green joint.
But at the same time, though, like these, okay, you're right. Those references and things are there, but for the most part, they are meant as jokes. And I think callbacks is kind of I'm not sure how to defend this exactly, but I don't see them as the same thing. What this show does versus what, you know, kind of Robot Chicken does. It's as far as referential material goes.
It does expect you to laugh just because they mentioned hobo stank. What the heck? Hobo stank is a thing that once existed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit of that, but I think a lot of that goes into what the show is in of itself is, you know, kind of this letter to people that are in, you know, I would say 30 to 50 age bracket right now, that may be going through stuff. This show is this is Kramer versus Kramer, but with superheroes.
I think and this key may show up in the second half. Once again, we're limited to the first 5 episodes, but I think the missing ingredient that a lot of Gen X guys like me are seeing is like where the breakdown happened. Like, you used to be on that upward trajectory, and now you realize, like, man, you are on the way back down. The momentum has stopped and gravity's pulling. But we don't ever see that upward trajectory in these first 5 episodes.
No, not particularly, but at the same time, too, though, like, think about it, though, Bruce. Would you look back at 20-year-old Bruce and just be like, you dumb idiot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we all would. And because the stupid young guy thinks he knows everything, perhaps he does, and, you know, he would probably, your younger self probably would be mad at your older self because you haven't done X, Y, or Z. But I think that's most people.
I can also look at that 20-year-old Bruce and see why there's some things there that would make 20-year-old Bruce think he was destined for more greatness than current day Bruce has achieved. But I'm not really seeing that trajectory there. That's what I'm saying, is it seems like how in the world did he fall? Like it's not like his dad founded AIM and you can use that angle.
No, for him, this is like, here's the deal. He wants to be a big deal, but ultimately MODOK's more or less in this kind of, to compare it to our own lives and everything, is always going to be middle management. He's never going to be that big dog, but still needs to feel that he has, you know, some sort of, you know, dominion over his work and stuff.
And I kind of feel like all the jokes about the tech bro culture are about 5 years too late, and they were all done better in Silicon Valley. Like the whole guy that's there for Grumble, that feels like this. And, you know, it might have taken years to produce this. Maybe those were fresh. Maybe they started this in 2017.
This is my big takeaway from this show, is that I don't need this show. You know, as a nerdy nerd, there's certain things where, like, oh man, I really need to see Shang-Chi. Like, without question, I want to see that movie. Mm-hmm. This is not one of those things. You know, Falcon and Winter Soldier, even WandaVision, even though I wasn't a fan of it, like WandaVision, I needed to see that. I don't need to see MODOK. MODOK feels more like the Inhumans than anything else to me. I mean, it's done well for what that is, but it's needless. You know, there's no thing there where you're like, oh man, I absolutely need to watch this to be part of that conversation. There's none of that here.
Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
I apologize. Oh, Adam, I'm going to hit you with a reference that I think you'll totally get. You may not agree, but you're going to totally get what I'm saying here. This is like Pinky in the Brain without Pinky.
Okay, I think I could. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, it takes away what is ultimately the. You can't take away the funny man. There's a funny man and a straight man, and if you leave the funny man at home, you just have a straight man show.
Yeah, except I guess I'm just saying more philosophically. What if the Pinky in the Brain was just the brain and you saw him doing his whole thing without Pinky in there? Like the dumb guy's actually the smart guy. Like Super Adaptoid is not carrying the weight for being Pinky in this.
It's a weird abstraction. I can't. Maybe I'm too dumb.
It's not that I don't like this show, because I do. It's just, it's something that, like, I don't need it. You know, if I never see another episode of this again, it's not going to affect me in any way.
See, that's a weird take, because for me, it's like I won't even think about it that way, and I think that it sounds like it may color your thought process on it, is that it needs to be something. For me, it's just like I'm using this as the offshoot fun thing that's there. Does it have any consequence? No, but it doesn't have to. It's this silly, funny comedy thing that's put on by the Robot Chicken dudes.
Well, here's the difference to me. The difference between this and a bigger property. It's the difference between, to me, it's the difference between something like the first Conjuring movie, which has spun off 17 different sequels.
Yeah.
Versus something like Happy Death Day, where, yes, there's a sequel to it. I've never seen any one of them, and I don't care. Like The Conjuring, I'm probably going to need to see, but I don't care if I don't see Happy Death Day.
You'd be wildly mistaken, because both of those movies are good.
You mean the sequel to Happy Death Day you don't care to see? Like the original is pretty good.
Yes.
Sequel's good too. Sequel's good too. Just
the original written by a comic book guy who was canceled.
Because it's not a horror movie anymore. It's a time travel, like a different kind of time travel movie in the sequel, which is kind of like, again, it takes what your expectations are and twists them again.
Which one does she run into the wood chipper in?
Both, strangely.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
So here's the question I have to help frame how we're approaching this series. When it comes to superhero comic book material, what is your high watermark for comedy?
When it comes to superhero material.
Yeah, like this is a superhero, supervillain comic book, but I'm not talking about like a comic book like Archie. I'm talking about superhero comics, and I know we're dealing with the villain here, but your high watermark for comedy, I think, is going to affect how you perceive this show. Do you have a high watermark for comedy TV show based on comics that, like I said, once again, superhero type comics?
I would say The Tick.
I was about to say Tick's going to be the only thing that falls in the category now.
That's that, and specifically the Patrick Warburton Tick for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the Amazon Tick just fine, but the Patrick Warburton Tick, it's one of the few pictures I stare at for every podcast we're recording is my Patrick Warburton dressed as the Tick saying, "God bless always Bruce" or something like that.
Hey, guy.
But so that is something that I like, and you can see how Patrick Warburton's Tick finds himself in the situation he's in, and then the way stuff unfolds is great, and these incompetent heroes are incompetent, but they still are surrounded by normal people, so they rise up a little bit, except for maybe Arthur. Once again, I'm struggling to get the sell here on why MODOK is where he is. Why is MODOK not in the no-name bar from day one?
Well, because he is kind of a joke. He doesn't have his life together, and ultimately, a lot of that comes from the fact, at least from what I'm seeing here and putting together.
But that's not answering his question. His question is, how come he started off in the good bar? Like, how did he ever get there in the first place?
I don't see this guy. I don't see this guy ever being at the top of AIM unless it's nepotism, like he inherited it from his father, which maybe that'll show up in the back half. I don't know, but it's, it makes sense in the comics because he starts as a serious character and then becomes a comedic one later on. But here it's kind of like, this would be more interesting maybe to me if it was like he's trying to get AIM to give him a job and trying to prove himself to AIM and keeps failing instead of trying to stop from losing AIM that he already has.
Well, I mean, again, we may get more kind of back information because this is a little timey-wimey this season so far, it seems, or at least there's the potential for more shenanigans like that to happen. We may get more of that info. I don't know, but as of right now, it feels like just it's a guy who is losing out on who he actually was or needs to be or whatever, and balancing that with his own family life and everything that's falling apart right in front of him, and through his family, hopefully, that is what it seems like, through his family, be able to solve his own personal problems that may make him a better supervillain in order to get him back to that status, perhaps, that he once had.
And, I do have to confess, this back half may end up showing us a moment where he's stealing. They show us in the first half where he kind of takes credit for something Monica did. So maybe in the back half, they'll show that he rose through the ranks by stealing a couple of key pieces of credit. Or, maybe he pulls a Russ Hanneman and he just does something totally stupid, but it works because nobody else was stupid enough to try it. So there may be something waiting on us. But in the first 5 episodes, I feel like the jokes are Family Guy jokes or Robot Chicken jokes. And that I would be loving this if I was taking it 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time, but it starts to feel like a chore when I'm like, oh my goodness, I still got to make it through 3 more episodes before I can move on to my next project.
Yeah, I can't. I'm so weird to me because for me it was a great kind of drama show with a lot of comedy stuff in it that looks, like Robot Chicken, but better. And I do want to say this, a lot of people, you may think Robot Chicken and have a very specific, idea of what that looks like in your mind and everything. This is like, 2.0 version of that. For looks wise, it is fantastic looking. And
it is.
The way they shoot it and everything is so good.
Cartoon Network, originally part of Turner, which became part of Warner. So it's now, Robot Chicken's a DC property if you're going to really break it down instead of a Disney property. So it shows Disney can do the production value better. Yeah,
just these like great, camera moves and setups. It is putting a camera in this world and just treating it like real proper cinematography and stuff. And it super shows. I was just very, very impressed with everything. And the music is great. I love all the stupid 90s. I'm a plant. I'm a 90s plant. I'll sit there and tell you right here, right now. We get a 1997. Yeah. I'm in high school, so it's the prime of everything.
It was a darn good decade.
So that you get all that kind of stupid crap.
I do love that opening thing for MODOK. That dun 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 dun. I do like
it.
It
is. Yeah, it is good.
But yeah, I'm so amazingly, it feels like I'm the only one who is interested in watching the rest of this thing. I wouldn't have figured.
Well, I'm still holding out hope. Maybe the back half is going to flip me around on it. This wouldn't be the first time that I started off cold on something and got real warm on it or even hot on it by the time I watched more. But the first one is like mildly amusing. And for mildly amusing, sometimes that's not cutting the mustard.
Yeah. Now, of all of the kind of lower level super villains that are in this thing, Bruce, how many were you just like popping off, going like, I know that guy, I know that guy, I know that guy, kind of thing?
I've got to give them credit because they managed to dredge, they really managed to dredge the archives, and they're pulling up people that I had to look up and see if they're real or not. So the Armadillo's probably the only one I was familiar with. Like Angar, I was like, is that supposed to be a version of Banshee? Yeah.
What about Pound Cakes?
Yeah, Pound Cake's a mutant, an evil mutant that I didn't think was real, but was. So, and that to me feels a little Patton Oswalt because that guy knows his nerd lore like legit.
I know he at least wrote one episode this year, and you know how all of these things work. He probably wrote on a whole bunch of them too, and then the main kind of guys get credit.
Sure, they give him credit for the one.
But man, they talked a whole bunch in an interview about how they had to really do a lot of balancing of references and stuff like that, so they didn't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, because that's initially what they wanted to do, was just like, let's pull the most obscure, weird stuff that we possibly can. And this result was them pumping the brakes on that.
Yes.
So it could have been even wilder. So be happy with that as it was, because if they got their full reign, who knows what kind of insane mess with this thing might be.
I feel like that whole style of comedy, at least for me, somebody my age, that all starts with Dennis Miller too. I remember him making race banning allusions when he was doing his stand-up, and like just the fact that somebody mentioned a Johnny Quest character was the punchline.
Yes. Kevin Smith also big on that.
Yeah. Very, very much. Now, are the goo people that they kind of made up there? Is that something from comics that feels like? Because I was almost like it was a life decoy thing, but crap.
I'll tell you what. To me, the comedy in that is that anybody was ever fooled for a moment.
I love the idea that the henchmen are so stupid that they just see this lump of matter and just go, "Yeah, that's them."
Well, MODOK falls for it also, which I find hilarious. But the best part to me is Patton Oswalt's voice doing the goo guy.
Yeah.
That is so funny to me. His version of what the goo guy sounds like is so good.
And, a supporting character that I do like is his son, because sometimes when his son is just going on and on with his ridiculousness,
yes.
That's like the kind of thing I wish I could go on and on with when I'm being ridiculous. But at times it does just go on a little too long.
I do love, because that is such a new thing, though, where the boy is so excited about everything. You don't see that anymore. Like I can't think of anything where that's a trope, where like the young boy. Oh, you know what? I can't even remember the name of the movie. Never mind.
I also like it that the wife who, typically sitcom wife, which is the mold I'm expecting here. The sitcom wife is perfect in every scenario, but I do like it here that she actually wants to give her son a peanut allergy because she lied about it. I like it because we do start to see why she would have married MODOK in the first place.
Yeah, she's an awful
from
person.
his incredible sexiness.
Yeah, she's an awful person also. They do get that point across pretty well.
Well, the funny part is like when they go through and just before they stop them from going back in time, but forget about saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, you're both meant for each other. You do love each other." Oops, we're disappeared, and it's all.
What did they call? Who are those crazy bush old people or something like that? They jump out of the bushes and they're like, "Oh, that's a sign for sure." And I do like it that at the end, her motivation for wanting to get divorced isn't for her to live a better life. It's simply to punish MODOK.
Yeah,
because her life isn't any better without him than it is with him. It's like, you're never ever home, so I'm leaving you, so you'll never ever be home. I mean, that doesn't hold up rationally.
I do love the standard sitcom trope of dad gets kicked out of the house and goes to the apartment in the worst neighborhood ever. There's just something about that stupid cliche trope that just brings warmth to my heart. It's just like, oh yeah, there's people were killed in here.
and sadly, in reality, statistics show it's much more likely to be the other way. So, but anyway, we get to have our laugh with Super Adaptoid there too, trying to make it homey. Like he gets custody of the one thing he probably doesn't want, which is Super Adaptoid, who I still haven't figured out what they're doing with that character here, but it's interesting at times.
Yeah, that he wants to be accepted by everyone, but also hates everyone so much.
Yeah.
But you know who we don't hate? The one man who could unite this whole planet if he decided to do so himself. We have to find out how this little cartoon program relates back one-to-one with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Hello, Mr. Stallone. It's Sweet Chauncey from the internet again. You know, I cannot help but get the feeling that you're not really listening to these bits. It's almost like I'm wasting everyone's time by writing these. No, it's the children who are wrong. But just in case you're listening, I'd like to talk to you about the director Arthur Hiller. You worked with him on the movie Burn, Hollywood Burn, which so happens Arthur Hiller directed. And it's truly, truly an unfunny comedy, one that time has washed from our collective memory. Whoopi Goldberg was in that too, and she also plays the voice of Pound Cakes on Marvel's MODOK. But let's get back to Arthur Hiller. You see, Sly, Arthur Hiller is probably most famous for directing 2 Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder movies. The 2, in my opinion, which are the best, Silver Streak and See No Evil, Hear No Evil. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, Mr. Stallone. These movies don't hold up to the modern eye. The race jokes feel weird now, especially to a white guy that's so white he can speak for several minutes about cryptocurrency. And the pacing makes it feel like scenes are roughly 7 hours long. But some jokes can still make me laugh, and I can't say the same thing about comedies I found funny even 5 years ago. I'm looking at you, masterminds. I bring up Arthur Hiller in the first place because he was known as mostly a comedy director, but when you look through the man's filmography, especially the later stuff, yikes, bro, just yikes. Taking Care of Business starring Jim Belushi, some movie called Pucked starring John Bon Jovi, a movie called Carpool starring Tom Arnold and David Paymer. It's not good. Now, look, I've said this before. I said this at the beginning of the opening to our show, and I'll say it again. When you're in comedy, it's really hard to keep your fastball humming, and people aren't going to tell you how much velocity you've lost. You need to know yourself, and you need to know when you need to start throwing a changeup. For Arthur Hiller, he should have seen the beginning and the end when he made The Lonely Guy, starring Steve Martin. It's a hard watch, and that's when Steve Martin was at the absolute height of his power. And that's what made you so interesting for the last 50 years, Sly. You constantly reinvent yourself. Every time I think that maybe it's time to hang up your Rambo sweatband, you make Copland or Creed or The Expendables. It's your ability to reinvent that keeps you on the A-list. Whoopi Goldberg used to be an A-lister, and the last really big movie she was in was 2014's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle monstrosity.
I forgot about that.
Both Whoopi and Arthur Hiller could take a few lessons from you, Sly. And there it is, Mr. Stallone. That's how you're connected to this movie, Whoopi Goldberg. I hope to hear from you soon. This is the 356th time we've tried this bit. I'll do better next week. Thank you. Your new best friend, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
I forgot Whoopi was in that movie. It's fantastic. She's good in this show, though, for what, couple lines that she has.
I love Pound Cakes. I love that whole little, crew of misfits. I love them.
Yeah, they're all just a bunch of little weirdos. I love, what is it, Tenpin? Is that his name?
Yeah, Tenpin the juggler.
Who doesn't have his 10 pins when they first meet?
So good.
Nobody has a car. I mean, they're really a sorry lot.
And I love it. He just becomes a big giant van where his face comes out of either the steering wheel or the front of the car. It's just like, what?
I also like that Tenpin's little patch is peeling on his costume.
I like it that one of the best lines of the show is when the young punks yell something at the D-list villains. And Angar says, "Give me my cheater so I can look that guy in the face." And he's hung up on his Molly Hatchet cover band. It's great. It's like old guy is old.
Oh, Bill Hader doing that voice and the voice of Leader, which I thought was great, which is essentially just Vincent Price as Leader.
Yeah, it's his Vincent Price voice.
It's so good.
He's in heaven.
All right. Well, we're not going to, since it's only half of the show, let's do it this way. Bruce, do you want to watch the last half of this?
Here, I'm going to give you an honest answer. Yes, I do want to watch the last half, but part of why I want to watch it is I'm hoping it'll give me some of what I think is missing in the first half. I do not want to watch the last half in binge mode. I want to watch an episode and then go do something else. Maybe watch an episode while I'm on the elliptical or the treadmill. I don't want to put myself in a situation where I feel like I have to spend all 5 senses focused entirely on this show.
Yeah, now that's another question. Would you have rather this been like a week-to-week sort of thing
yes,
versus...
I would have.
Yeah.
Sean, same question.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I'll watch it. Sure. It's this show is not offensive in any way. It's good. It's just not great. It's MODOK. It's Marvel's MODOK.
Yeah, like for me, it's too good to get a pass. That's why I'm sounding harsh.
Yes.
If it was better or worse, I would be going easier on it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and clearly the most of anybody here. But again, maybe it's also I'm seeing that there's still half a story here yet to tell. And I mean, for example, I'm going to be reviewing Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead on the Film Find this week. At this point, I've only seen half of it, and based upon that half, not so hot. Maybe that's how you guys feel about MODOK so far, where it's just like, nah, it's not really quite there. But
no,
maybe,
we want to watch the rest of MODOK.
Maybe
it's
that's
just
second
not something
half.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just not fueling the fire. That's all right. But we got
Right.
we got plenty of other things in the hopper here in the future, so we don't have to worry too awful much about that. But we'll figure another spot for it not too long. That'll do it, everybody. A little shorter episode this week, but we'll do more even on other shows coming up because we got Loki coming up and not too awful long, so that's going to be another fine adventure here for us. And we'll talk about what we're doing in just a moment for next week. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I am going strong with the YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. Taking some deep dives into anime. We put a little bit of our Jujutsu Kaisen coverage on pause while my daughter finishes out the semester of her freshman year of high school. And I'm jumping into a fan favorite, Attack on Titan. So go check that out.
Go see YouTube's Anime Dad, everybody. Bruce Leslie. Look it up. I'm saying it right now. He's going to have 3,000 subscribers this week because he's right on the cusp. It's going to happen this week. And I
hope so. In the past week, I've had to reset my expectations. Demon Slayer didn't last forever.
Hey, nothing ever does, baby. But you keep moving, and I see those numbers. You doing fine. Sean, what else?
You can find me on Twitter at Sean Kovacs 4. Sweet Sean C from the internet.
And like I said, if you were subscribed to us for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just keep subscribed to that. When Loki comes out, we will be starting up Loki 30 questions there as well. And, of course, check out the Film Find this week. I'm going to be talking about Army of the Dead, the new movie from Zack Snyder, out on Netflix right now. Because of his untimely, well, maybe not untimely, he was up in his 80s, but Charles Grodin died. So I watched Midnight Run. I'll talk a little bit about that.
Good.
Those Who
One of
Wish
my
Me
all-time favorites.
Dead, the new movie on HBO right now with Angelina Jolie. We're going to talk about that. And The Sound of Metal, which was up for a couple of Oscars and stuff. So big week there on the Film Find as well. Now, next week, we're calling on the supporters over at patreon.com/HMP yet again to vote on the movies that we're going to watch. Now, here are the choices. First, we have Tron Legacy, Return of Swamp Thing, Speed Racer, Superman Red Sun, or is it Red Sun Superman, one or the other, or Frank Miller's The Spirit. This is a ragtag group here. This feels like the Dirty Dozen coming in.
Oh man, I'm more of a Sam J. Jones, The Spirit kind of guy.
Well, we gotta listen. We eventually got to pull that Frank Miller Band-Aid off and probably scream to the heavens. I shouldn't have said that out loud on the show. That was a mistake. The second that finished up, I was like, no. Why did I do that? Because I have seen that film, and yowza.
Me too, and it is no good.
So, all right. Anyway, so head on over to patreon.com/HMP. Support at any level today. Get all the bonus stuff, including the voting HMP nickname and the satisfaction in knowing that you helped us out. We really appreciate it. That'll do it for this episode. Join us when we're talking next week about our Patreon Select for Sweet Sean's Kovacs from the internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portes. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Is every good reason for letting you go? She's sneaky and smoked out, and it's starting to show. I'll never let you go. I'll never let you go. I'll never let you go. I'll never let you turn around. promise to your mother.